Welcome everybody to podcast One Roots. I'm here with Lindsay, and I would try to introduce Lindsay, but I'm gonna first tell you a story about how I met her. So I went to this YFR farm that I would do like social work. We kind of like help people to grow vegetables and fruits and corn. It was like a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
I love it. And first day I showed up, I saw her working, and she would explain me everything, and I was like, "Wow, she really knows what she's doing." So I started to ask her about like her background and everything. No, don't worry. So I started asking about her background, and the first thing she told me was like, "Yes, I used to work on the fashion industry." And then I saw her like working so intense with all like planting and so passionate about it. Like I was like, I need to know more about that. So we were working on talking, we moved forward, but always talking.
Yeah.
And after that, every Saturday, right? We used to be there planting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is how I met her. You want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm Lindsay DeRose. At this point, I'm a business owner. I have a private gardening business of like culinary gardening and cut flower gardening here in Napa.
Nice.
Yeah.
And born and raised?
Born and raised in South Florida, and then spent about 15 years in New York, and I've been in California like 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Like that, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And what are we drinking today?
And I'm opening this bottle of Waypoint Pinot from my friend Remy Jorgensen over at Frontier Wine.
Nice.
And yeah, she recommended it, and I wanted to impress you with my wine choice.
Please.
So, that's what we got.
Okay, I'm waiting to try it to see how good it is. You never judge the book with the cover.
Well, if you're you, yes. But me, I'm not. I like the labels. I know that's the wrong thing.
One of the things I really love about the wine industry is the labels.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was a little kid in Mexico, there was like this store that it was called Mix Up. So it was for records.
Uh-huh.
And I like to get inside and see like the cover of all the records.
Oh,
and
cool.
then listen to the music.
Yeah.
And then when I was like probably like 17, in the grocery stores there was like the wine area.
Uh-huh.
And I like to go to the wine like area to see like all the labels
Yeah.
and the countries. And it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know. It's cool when people put effort into it.
Yeah, it's like a little piece of art.
Right, exactly.
Right
yeah. Cheers.
So cheers. Let's see. Tell your friend that she knows what she's doing.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's
nice
pretty
for
good.
a Pinot.
Yeah.
Refreshing, actually.
Yeah.
Refreshing for a Pinot, yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, I would like to start talking about your fashion. Like, you born and raised in Florida. You have some, like, ag background in Florida?
My mom and my grandmother and my great-grandmother, they always gardened around me, but, the climate is so different there than it is here. We couldn't really grow a whole lot, or they didn't grow a whole lot of vegetables, more like ornamental flowers and a lot of like tropical fruits and avocado and things like that. So I was always around that, but I don't know that I ever really like, at the same time, all those same women in my family were all sewed, and my mom made all my clothes.
Oh, nice.
She was a quilter. My grandmother quilted a lot, and my great-grandmother was a seamstress. So I did grow up around both things. That is kind of the inherited kind of hobbies.
It was like a suburb of Florida? It was like more
Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Suburbs of Fort Lauderdale, basically, yeah. But my grandmother and great-grandmother are from Colombia, and my mom grew up in Colombia, and so I kind of just had a really strong influence from all of them.
Fun fact. When I was first day I met her, Lindsay, she told me about her Colombian heritage, and she started talking Spanish to me, and it was so great. Like, honestly, I wasn't expected. So, te voy a tener en el episodio en español.
Okay, sí.
And so Florida, you see all your family like working, like singing, and like all like in. It wasn't like for fashion, right? It was just for.
Well, for like my mom would make, like I said, she made all my clothes. She was really into fashion. She'd make her own outfits, and all my dolls had matching clothes to my. It was a lot of like, definitely I think of fashion kind of excitement around like artistry around like clothing.
And you always like you were surrounded of that, and were you when you were a kid? Do you have that feeling that that's what you wanted to?
100%. Yeah, it was like just like kind of you shared your story with me of like your drive, and I think I had a similar kind of like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like I knew I was gonna go to New York when I was really young.
Okay.
And it was like that is the goal. I went through school and I just knew that's where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
You moved to New York for school first, right?
I went to Syracuse University for fashion design.
Okay.
And got my degree and then moved to the city, to New York
Manhattan.
City. Yeah.
So the city of the cities.
The city of the cities. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast like 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about how people in New York are like literally built different. Like if you can live in New York for 5 years, it's because you can live like you're built to everything.
Yeah, it definitely attracts like a very, you either love it or you hate it, and if you love it, it's because you are a specific type of person that like you are focused, like, and you know, people say New Yorkers aren't friendly. I don't think that's what it is. I think they're so focused that they're just not like, the radar is not on for like other people. It's like, I'm here to do this thing. And
yeah, because other than New York, I mean, you have Tokyo, Mexico City, probably.
Yeah,
but like New York
London,
is like
maybe,
London,
but still their mentality, I think it's an American big city that it's
exactly.
Like,
and if you talk about fashion, you can Milan or other like European, but in America, like not just the US, like as a continent, New York is like the main city.
It's the Mecca,
exactly, it's the Mecca.
Sure.
You said it right.
Yeah.
And I love how was your drive that be like, fashion, I'm gonna go to the Mecca.
Yeah.
That's kind of like when I thought about wine, I was like, well, I can go to probably Texas. There's one in Texas. There's one in where's the Mecca? In the US. So Napa.
Here you are.
Yeah, you gotta be with the best to become the best.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. You might as well go right to the pros.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
So you went right to the pros.
I went right to the pros. I literally knocked on doors for like my first few internships. I just showed up at like fashion houses that I admired and I knew where they were, and I just showed up and was like, I want to be an intern, and most of them said no. And then there was one that said yes, my first internship. And I don't know, I worked at a fabric store. I worked for like a local manufacturer. I had all kinds of like jobs, and until I finally landed in a corporate position. Like
so that was fashion. After college, you worked like for small like design.
Yeah, my very first, like I had internships between like the years of college. Like I spent a summer in New York in my first internship, and then when I moved to the city, it was like the height of the recession, and I couldn't even like get my foot in the door as a designer. I had a portfolio, but my school didn't do the best job of prepping you with that, and they just didn't really know. And long story short, I just ended up, after like months of searching for a job and not getting anything, I ended up working at Mood Fabrics, which is kind of like a famous retail fabric store in the garment district in New York. And that led to another job, and that led to another job, and it just kind of, eventually the job I ended up getting for Victoria's Secret was actually through my college roommate's family member or something. It needed somebody while someone was on maternity leave, and that's how I ended up in my first corporate job. Yeah.
So Victoria's Secret was the first big
corporate job I had, and it was like a full-time freelance position while this person was out on pregnancy leave, and then when she came back, they offered me a full-time job. Yeah.
Because everything, I mean, in the US is kind of fast. Like, I'm from Mexico, so things are a little more slow sometimes. But right here, everything's so fast. And then in New York, like, people are... If you're there, somebody's going to be behind.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Boom, boom. Yeah.
Right.
So, I'm really impressed. Like, New York, for me, I love the city. But I think I will be ready, but I don't know if I would like to have that experience.
Yeah.
I'm like more calm life, but but the thing is, like, you were there for how long?
In the city proper, like 11 years.
And what was like your daily routine?
It's funny you ask, because I've reflected on this lately. It's so different. I never had a car until I moved to Napa, just so you know. Like, I had a car in high school briefly, and then the whole time I lived in the city, I never needed one. And I would take the train to work, and I would go to the gym and I'd take the train home and just do it all over again. I was kind of in the rat race for a long time.
Do you party in New York?
Oh, for sure. I mean, definitely. I moved there like in my 20s, so yeah. There was that on the weekends. But yeah. And then eventually, like once I fell into the like part of the clothing industry that I was in, which was product development and production, I kind of realized that if I kind of stayed on that path, that I would eventually get to travel a lot. And that did end up happening over time. So then my job was a lot of like, I wasn't always like in the same cycle of like, you know, I was often traveling a bunch all around the world for a long time. By the time I was with Banana Republic, I was traveling a bunch. But I mean, in terms of like the day, do you mean like what I was actually doing in my job? Oh,
like,
well,
I mean, like daily routine. Like for example, you wake up at this time.
Oh yeah.
Take this train to this position.
Like yeah. Well, I moved every single year because that's part of New York City also.
You always like...
Well, they change your rent every year, and
so you always
usually can't afford it in the first place. You're like, I was a paycheck to paycheck for the longest time, and so yeah, every year there was like a different living situation or need, or they jacked my rent, I had to go somewhere else, and so my commute was always different. I moved a lot, and then at first I was going to the garment district a lot, so I was at least going to the same direction. But then the Victoria's Secret office was in Midtown, and the Banana Republic office, when I first joined with them, was like on the east, I don't know, like a lower east-ish side, and then they moved down to Tribeca. So it just, everything
like switched.
moved.
Every year was different.
It was always different.
Every day is different.
Every day is different, yeah.
I remember I went to New York last year with my brother. Was in New Jersey. Yeah. And I remember for a second I stopped in Central Park, in a place in the park, and I look around and see all these people. Some people running. Yeah. Some people laying in the grass. Some people like in a date. Some people taking pictures. Yeah. And they were all right there, and I just stopped there to imagine like this life and why they're all here. Yeah. And just the whole city. Yeah. And then I went to this bar, and it's like a rooftop, and I was like in the like 32th floor looking.
Oh yeah, you said you were at the Dream. Yeah. I have been there.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, and it's like you see all the lights and everything, and it just feels like you're in a movie.
I know, and you're like a tiny little speck in a massive, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of energy, a lot of everything.
The energy is different.
It's
for
so
sure.
different,
yeah. Like you say that people sometimes say like New Yorkers are like rude, right? Yeah, but you've been there for like 13 years, you say.
11, yeah.
11, yeah. And I don't see you being rude.
I don't think that I actually think New Yorkers are super nice. Okay. I just don't think they like stop to give anybody like the time of day.
Have you been back lately?
No, I went back once since I left, and that was it. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to go back, but I just haven't had the time.
So after 11 years, you realize, okay, you want to make like a industry change in your career, or like lifestyle change, or what was like?
Well, I'd been flying out to San Francisco to go to the Gap corporate office out here. We were like, the brand Banana Republic was bi-coastal for a long time. Okay. So they would come to New York for meetings. We would go out here for meetings. I had a bunch of friends living out here, so I would stay for the weekend, and they'd show me the like NorCal like spots, and I just over time was kind of like, it's really nice out here, and like the weather's really nice, and the office, the San Francisco office of Gap is like incredible. It's right on the Embarcadero, like full of views of the bay from every room you're in. It's like all glass windows. I mean, it was just like so alluring. It's hard to not want to be here, and I think it's a long time to be in that city and to be in that mentality, and I think I was starting to feel like I needed a little bit of a like quieter and calmer like life around me, and then like just serendipitously the Banana Republic decided they wanted the whole office to be in San Francisco, and so they just totally moved. I mean, they let everybody go, and then they rehire people they want to bring out to San Francisco, or people who want to come out, and that's how I ended up out here. But then I had to sign a 2-year like clause with them that if I left within 2 years, I'd have to pay them back some of my moving expenses. So I could leave. I didn't like I didn't have to stay, but it was like, well, I might as well just commit to the 2 years and yeah.
So you moved to the Bay, still working in fashion?
Yeah. I moved to the Bay with Banana Republic, and I moved to Oakland and was working in Napa.
You got a car?
I didn't get a car because I was in Oakland and taking public transport to SF.
Still.
And then if I like needed a car in the East Bay, I would just either take Ubers or like they have those like, what are those part-time rent cars? It's like a get around, or they have those different like.
I never.
Anyway, I had options. I didn't need a car still. Okay. I still didn't need one.
So, how's it different? Because this is something I love about the US that it's like you have East Coast, and you have Florida, then you have Texas, and then you have the Midwest, and then you have Washington and California. Like same country.
Yeah.
Like it's different.
Right.
The vibe, the landscaping, everything.
Totally.
And then New York to San Francisco, two of the main cities of the country, working in the same industry. Was it like a big change for you? Or not really?
Yeah, I mean, ironically, like Oakland felt like peaceful. Like, not that there was now there's definitely like more blatant crime in Oakland than I would ever see in New York, but like the energy and like like obviously the weather and like it's just more like an outdoor lifestyle too. Like I don't know, I feel like at least in my I don't know, I feel like the recreational activities are like outdoor. You can go to the redwoods really easily and go camping, and these are things that I never ever did in living in the city, because you can get out to the country, like you can get out to outside New York City and be like in the country, and you can take a train very easily, but it's not I don't know, it just wasn't what I was doing when I was living out there.
I feel like when you're like in that of a big city, like it sounds like a magnet, right? That is always have something happening that
there's so much to do in there, and but it is like where they say a concrete jungle. It's like just getting, like you were in Central Park, that is luckily dedicated to green space in the city, but like otherwise you're just like in this big kind of glass bubble of buildings and concrete and people, and which is great, like I loved it, but I was just ready at that point in my life, like through my 20s and into my 30s, just kind of like, okay, I think I'm ready to like calm down a little bit, and I've loved living out here. It's great.
Did you ever thought about moving to Europe?
Yeah, it was definitely, living abroad has always been definitely an option.
I mean, through fashion,
Not through, I mean, maybe there was a time where I thought I could go work for like Zara or something, and I think I did apply for a job a couple of times with like Burberry in London, and I think there were times where I entertained that idea for sure. And I did a study abroad program in college in London. But I don't know, I don't think it ever, because before I moved out here for Banana, I did, because I was with Banana in all for 10 years. So at a certain point, I was kind of like, I knew I wasn't going to be there forever, and that I was maybe going to want to try something different. And so there were periods of time where I would
you're kind of like
search, and I was open to that. And when I left, I actually was interviewing for another clothing company, Everlane, who's in San Francisco, and I was like 4 or 5 rounds into the interview process with them, and this was during the pandemic, I think. Yeah, it must have been, because it's when I left my job. And close to my last round of interviews, this opportunity came up at Meadowood to farm. At that point, I had started my interest in farming, and I think the job at Everlane was, like a 6-figure management job. The job at Meadowood was $16 an hour, like entry level, like lowest person on the totem pole. And I talked to the recruiter at Everlane, and I was like, I think I'm going to take this job on a farm. Like, I'm sorry, I really wasn't trying to waste your time. Like, I really was interested in this job, but like this opportunity came up, and it's just in my gut. Like, I feel like this is what I need to do. And she was like, that's awesome, you should go for it. Like, she was great.
Sometimes you can lie yourself,
I mean, it's just like, I just felt like I was gonna keep feeling a certain way about being a part of this massive industry. I just got to a point where I was part of this massive industry that
at the end of the day,
yeah,
you start working for a small like designer, right? So
right.
Yeah, and looking at your mom, like you see like all like handcraft and
right.
all the passion behind. But sometimes I kind of feel when you become massive, that kind of get lost.
You lose the magic, yeah, for sure. No, you're absolutely right.
That kind of get lost like in the goals, in the market, in
the finance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So also I read that the fashion industry is one of like the produce more pollution.
The worst. It's the worst. It's so bad. And I don't think, like, I knew it when I was in it. I mean, I was in the factories. I was in these countries where they don't have, I mean, we don't even have that many laws around these things, but they even have even less, you know? And I saw it for my own eyes, and I knew that it wasn't good, but I just was caught up in it, and, you know, and the benefits and the pay, and they make your life, like, at that point my life was pretty amazing. I'm traveling all around the world, you know, business class everywhere, like, it was great, you know, and then the pandemic happened, and then it was like this, the conversations in the company were like, just how do we like turn things around so that we can turn a profit again, because people don't want to buy office clothes from Banana Republic because they're not going to an office, and it just got kind of ugly. Yeah, like this is happening in the world, and you're thinking people are dying, and you're like, well, we gotta squeeze more money out of them, you know. I mean, it wasn't that like cut and dry, but it was to that effect of just, I don't know, it just felt ugly at that point, and it all kind of just I don't know, it hit me
and sometimes like actually like I feel like right now like customers have the information right away, like they can find out what's going on in the world, but also they're targeted and shooting with marketing with this, and they want to have everything new. And it's all happening so quick too. It's like the brands themselves can't even catch up to like the technology of like how the technology is affecting society in a way of like, I mean, 5 years ago we didn't have targeted ads every time we looked at our phone, you know, and every brand, there's a lot of countries that don't care about copywriting ideas, and they'll produce, you know, someone else's idea exactly the same for a quarter of the price, and they don't care. Like, they'll just put it out there on Shane or any of these, like, you know, what's the other one? There's this other, I forget what it's called, but there's these brands that just put out like cheap clothing so fast. And also like that's the fashion industry, but talking about like also like agriculture, like there's some like with the technology, with everything, how we improving our systems, like there's for also like in restaurants, like you see how many food are throwing away. Like for sure we're producing food to fill the whole world. Right. There's something whack. There's something that is missing. There's something that is not matching. That why we're still the same way. Right. And also like I heard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some like fashion brands that they rather burn their clothes so people can't get it. So that other brands can't copy them too. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I definitely was a part of things that were destroyed, and at multiple brands. Yes. So it does happen, and for a number of reasons. And I mean the whole industry is just like very, shake your head wasteful. Just like, what is happening? Let's shake. I get but now after having that, and your gut start telling you like, hey, there's this in the farm, like go back to Earth a little bit. Like reset everything. You took the chance, and you moved just like an hour north, right? So I started coming up here to volunteer on the farm. Okay. On the weekends from Oakland, I'd rent a car on Saturday morning. I'd drive it up here, volunteer for the day, like hang with my friend who lived downtown, go back. And that happened a few times over while I was working from home in my one-bedroom apartment alone. And it was just kind of like, well, if I don't need to be in the city, why am I paying rent in Oakland? Oakland was getting weird during the pandemic, and
a friend of mine who I worked with, who lived in San Francisco alone, was also kind of feeling similarly.
Okay.
And so we came up here and looked at, this was the first house we looked at.
Okay.
And there was only a couple houses available, and we were like, I guess let's just do this. Like, it was really not that thoughtful. It was just kind of like a very kind of quick process of like,
Unless of the pandemic, I think it was like, I mean, it was, I don't want to happen again, but it was something like, it was terrible because of like the deaths and the situation that I was living, but it's also like kind of like make us realize what matters.
Totally. Oh yeah. I mean, it changed the course of my life for sure.
And
everyone's, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I didn't understand what was happening internally at the time. Like, it wasn't like the pandemic's happening, I'm going to do this thing. It was just like a slow kind of like wasting away at my computer and being like, so nice outside. Like, why? And I had this like inner feeling of like, I want to get my hands in the dirt, because I had spent all this time on concrete, and I just had this yearning of like, I want to get my hands in the dirt. It wasn't even like I want to farm. It was like, I want to get my hands in the dirt.
Nice.
And that's how it started.
And you start volunteering, learning a little bit.
Yep. Moved here.
Moved here to Napa.
And then I saved money by living here and still working my corporate job.
Nice.
But in that time, I was like, okay, this is the plan. Let me just like stash some money so that I can. I knew I was going to have to take some kind of significant pay cut if I wanted to like learn from the very beginning a new skill entirely. You know.
That's where I'm going. So first day of work, you show up with your
my Gap jeans.
With your Gap jeans, with the Banana Republic hat,
for sure,
with a 6-inch.
I bought brand new Bloodstone boots because that's what I heard people wore. For real, and I was like, I felt like a kid, like a first day of school. It was like, cool. It was like
a summer camp.
Well, yeah, it was just like I felt really excited. Like, and we started at like, I don't know, maybe 5:45 or something in the morning, and I was stoked. I was like, couldn't even sleep the night before. I was so excited. I mean, how often do you get that feeling as an adult? It's like, you know, I was kind of just like, okay, this is the right path. I don't know where it's going, but like, this is a good sign.
That's something that you just say that really hits me. Like, how often do you get that feeling as an adult?
Yeah.
And
to feel like a kid at like first day of school.
But that shouldn't be the way, right?
No, of course not. Yeah, no, not at all.
No, totally.
Yeah.
But okay, so you start farming, and it was like this organic farm for a restaurant, right?
Yep, for a 3 Michelin star restaurant. Yeah.
Please, 3 Michelin
star restaurant. Yes.
And they grow like all the vegetables to make all the ingredients?
Yes, although in the time that I worked there, unfortunately that restaurant burned down in the 2017 fires.
Oh, wow.
And so it's not currently open, and in the time I was farming for them, the restaurant was not operating as a full-time restaurant. They were only doing like special events but yeah, and then the chef from that restaurant has the Charter Oak also, which is a larger restaurant. So we would send some produce to that restaurant. And then because the regular restaurant burned down, they kind of had to change their business a little bit, and they were selling produce to some other like local like restaurants in the area. Yeah.
And that's something that Napa's been doing now, right? I know Cliff, the Richeria, they kind of grow their own
thing, yeah, for sure. A lot of the wineries have like amazing gardens. And up in Healdsburg, their single thread, they have like a 20-acre farm or something like that. They're not even fully using it yet.
And then this is what amazed me the most. So you already have that big change. Well, first of all, Florida to New York, that's a big change. And then you live 11 years in New York, and then you decide to travel the whole country to move to Oakland. That same industry, but has merit to move. Has a lot of merit. But then lifestyle, 300 degrees.
Totally.
And then you were there in the farm, and then you start your own business. Like, that was something that it was like, I just say, like, you have this feeling as a kid, and then you wanted to keep learning, and then keep innovating, and then entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, it fell into my lap. A friend of mine who's a farmer in the area. I mean, it's not without putting in the work of like, ever since I moved to Napa, I have met a lot of farmers, and I've met a lot of definitely grape growers for sure, but I've also met a lot of women vegetable farmers, and through that one of those connections, there was a woman who had this business, and she was pregnant, and she knew that she wasn't gonna keep fully doing that level of work after she had her kid, and was looking for somebody to kind of like take it over. And this person put me in touch with her, and it just was a really good fit. Like, she and I hit it off, and
that's how you started your first corporate job.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just fall into these things. I've been very fortunate, and I just started doing. So then I like took one of her clients up in St. Helena, and I was still working on the farm at the same time. So I like didn't fully
engage.
Because I wasn't sure how much work it was going to be and how many hours I was going to be working, and there's certainly so much more to learn even still, and so I was still enjoying like the learning experience of working on the farm, and I felt like being able to do both at the same time was nice too, because they were close enough to each other that I had like similar growing conditions to learn from. So it was like, oh, if this is what's happening on the farm, then I know I'm like right about in line. If this is also happening to me it was like, I don't know, a mile and a half away or something.
Okay.
So
same conditions.
Yeah, same conditions, and same crops at the same time, that I could kind of like watch and check myself with like.
And also like ask for advice.
Totally, or like not too blatantly, but I'd be like, so if this were to happen to you, what would you do?
I have a friend of a friend.
Exactly. If somebody wanted to know the answer to this question, what would you tell them?
And like, you know, like when you're in high school or like middle school, like you have the test, and then the professor say, any question before the test, and then you start asking all the questions of the test.
Yeah, exactly. What's the answer to number 5?
Just to be funny, but you cannot do that, right?
Yeah.
That's smart, I would do the same for sure. So, how long have you been having this business?
It's been like a year and a half now.
A year and a half?
Yeah.
And what if you're like, I would like to know what would be like your biggest takeaway from first New York, and then fashion industry, and then we can continue with Napa and farming.
Biggest takeaway? Well, I would just say that outwardly at this point in my life, I think maybe a person might not understand how all of the experiences that I've had up till now have helped me get to where I am right now, and have helped me be successful in having a business, even though I might have worked for a big corporation and the work itself might have been slightly different. It's actually not that different at the end of the day. Like in the clothing world, you're constantly planning like 6 months ahead, because that's how long it takes for things to get made. And guess what? Vegetables sometimes take 6 months to grow. And so it's like, and the management of people and the management of like different personality types and communicating and all these things are pervasive in all of the things that I've done. So it might sound like a totally different, and yes, my days look very different, but like the skills are all the same, and without the experience that I had, even though it wasn't in agriculture, I wouldn't be able to be successful.
You're applying all what you learned on your area. It's
all been really helpful. There have been so many times in doing what I'm doing now where I've been like, thank God I had like that one time, like I can pinpoint too, like certain situations where I'm like, without that hadn't happened, like I wouldn't know how to handle this right now.
And it's part of your life. Like it's part of you at the end of the day.
I just think people maybe like hear, like a really basic overview and think that you couldn't even compare, but like that's not what I experienced, and
that's one of the things.
I didn't really fully answer your question, but
no, that's amazing. No, like I would kind of like making sure like from the business, for the fashion industry, you get like all your learning and your experience.
Yeah, exactly.
That make you who you are now.
Right, yeah. So, but I would say also to what we were saying earlier about like things you don't get to feel as an adult. I think I was walking down this path of like a specific career to the point where I was becoming an expert in, you know, the thing that I was doing is pretty specific. And it was starting to feel monotonous and like a slow death, you know, and if I'm not engaged in learning, like most of the time, I just start to feel dead inside.
Yeah.
And so
it's like you lost the passion.
Yeah, I think that like feeling the humility of learning a new thing as an adult where you're like, I know absolutely nothing, and I'm like day one at the farm, I know nothing. I don't know how to harvest anything aside from what we harvested at like the farm, which was different because it was a different type of harvest. Like I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And so to feel that at 30, I don't know how, I was like 36 or whatever, or 37, like that's really humbling to feel after you've like dedicated, you know, your adult life to like becoming an expert in something else. So I think it's been good. It's like I think that's been really good for me to feel that. And,
no, change is a constant.
Yeah.
And change is like also like means the same of growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally.
And I love what you say that how in the farm how you learn, and then also like the people that are teaching you every day.
Right.
And you're not only learning about farming, you're learning about their life, you're learning about other people, other perspectives.
Right.
And that's something that you wouldn't get if you wouldn't get out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think Napa is like this perfect little, I don't know, place where people actually care about agriculture and they care about where their food comes from. They care about how it's grown. Like, the climate is perfect for it. So it is this like perfect little bubble to be
paradise.
Doing this thing that just kind of all falls
it's
into
a real
place
jungle,
here.
Yeah,
Exactly. It is a real grape jungle with some veggies in between.
Also, I just read like a book a month ago about Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And when one of the famous saying of Bruce Lee is like, be water, my friend.
Be water.
Yeah. And he's like, if you have a full cup, you can fit anything in the cup, so you gotta empty the cup to learn more stuff.
Yeah,
so
see,
like,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel that for sure.
Yeah. And it's like, it's Bruce Lee. This is like, I'm quoting Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
He's saying that when you put water in the cup, the water becomes the cup. When you put water on the teapot, the water becomes the teapot. So it doesn't fight, it's adapt. And then water can heal, like be slow and like calm. But water can strike when it's like so.
When it's hot.
Always in movement. Yeah, and it's like if you put a lot of pressure, like water can cut you.
Right.
Yeah, water, like if you're in the ocean, water can kill you. Like,
right.
But also can be like raining, calm, protect. So water adapts to situations. So it's like,
You like water.
Yeah. You should. Right. It's an interview. It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Talking,
I'll check it out.
Yeah. But Bruce Lee was like, my friend.
Yeah.
Be water. Right? He was like,
Animated,
he was unique. Yeah. He was unique. So now, New York. What's your takeaway from New York?
My takeaway. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
That's a song, right? That's a song too, right? It's a saying, right? Doesn't kill you, make you stronger.
Oh, maybe Kanye West did.
Probably,
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I think it teaches you drive and work ethic and, I mean, all the things. I have some people leave New York and they're cranky about it, but I love it. I'll always love it. It'll always be my home. Yeah. But I think I'm down for the quieter life now. Okay.
This guy that was telling about how New York is one of the biggest cities in the world, he's a businessman. Yeah. And he was saying like he will 100% hire someone who will live in New York. Oh. Because he knows like that drive and that direction, and he's like always like looking for stuff.
If people are moving there like newly, I always say if you can make it through your first year and you still like it and you're not like ready to give up, keep going and it'll all turn around. But the first year is like the hardest.
Yeah, honestly, Frank Sinatra was right. If you can make it there,
you can make it anywhere. It's true. Yeah. I think that's true.
Yeah, that's why you're making it so good.
I know. I've got it figured out. Although this is the largest space I've ever lived in, and the least I've ever paid.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Because in New York, I would live in a space. My whole like apartment was probably the size of my bedroom now, and I paid more by a lot than what I pay here. So
yeah,
I'm winning. I'm winning the game. I'm just kidding.
We all winning. Cheers for that.
Cheers for that.
Yeah. Win the win. I mean, at the end, I'm gonna turn a little bit philosophical. Now, but it's not like it's not about winning, right? It's about like how you saying, like feeling like as a kid, like feeling every day.
Yeah,
like,
that's winning to me though. It's like now I wake up and I'm not like I don't have to answer to anybody but myself, and I have a really great appreciation for being outside, and like I don't wear headphones when I work. Like I want to hear all the birds. Nice. I want to hear the air. Like I think, just getting back to the basics. Of, like maybe you said that earlier. It's like I want to get my hands on the ground. I want to learn about, the earth and like how to care for it. And, I don't know. It's just I think that makes me feel like I'm winning every day. I'm just like, I'm so grateful to like be able to live a life where I get to do this.
Yeah.
And,
I was talking with Elias. He's in my Spanish podcast, and also with my brother when I was driving here. And I remember I grew up. Morelia is like a middle-sized city, but I remember every time I went to the farm or to the ranch of my grandpa, it was like I was like, wow, it's so like my grandpa always had this thought that we were poor, like we live in a ranch, we were poor, we just raised cattle, grow food, sell in the market. We didn't have opportunity. We were poor, and I get that because it was like difficult times. You know, they couldn't afford like live in the city or like have education. But I was in the city. I was able to have education and have everything. But then I went to the ranch and I see like the water. They have rivers, clean rivers, and you see the kids in the ranch jumping in the river, drinking water from the river, eating like fresh corn tortillas right there, like beans, like you don't have like a lot of things, but you have everything what you need. Right,
and it's like in its purest form.
Yes, and for me that was like, they were wealthy. They were like, you have everything here. Like, why
people wish they had this.
Why to bother? Like sometimes, like there was like, there's like a pollution in the water, so you can drink water from the sea. You have to buy like plastic bottled waters, and you know how many chemicals are in the plastic bottled water.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah, totally. No, it's good that you appreciate that. Not everybody does. Yes. So
it was like one of the best feelings ever. And actually, like we're part of the earth. Like we're connected. It's
we're all we are all one for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like what you give also comes back, and that goes not just for people, that goes for the planet too. So
I was like you can listen. You speak Spanish, you understand. But he was saying, Elias said that the earth is alive.
Yeah.
Like it's like we are not controlling there. Like we're just like pushing it, but at the end, like it's a human, like not human being, but it's like a living being.
Yeah.
So you gotta like respect and be smart how you treat her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the like classic education around botany and the science behind plants, but I think I have some level of like intuition around it of like what is the plant telling me that it wants. Like I try to like approach it in that way of like, and every day, every property I go to is different, and I could do the same thing at all of the properties I work on and have different results because, I don't know, maybe the air pocket of like warmth in this like one area makes this plant feel really good and it grows really big, or the opposite. It's like you really have to like listen to what it is that they want, and and like be present with it, and it is a living thing, and the plants do talk to each other.
But that's also with people, like even though people speak the same language, sometimes they don't know how to communicate.
That's for sure.
It's like crazy.
I know.
I feel like sometimes caught up in my work I have to delegate a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm bilingual, so I have to speak through an English speaker to a Spanish speaker and then back.
Yeah.
And when I translate, when I talk with the English speaker, he get completely different idea of what I'm trying to tell him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Spanish speaker gives a completely different idea
Yeah.
of what I'm trying to say. So at the end of the day, I tell like the English speaker, okay, what's your goal? What do you want? And then I try to change the words in English to the Spanish words so he understands. It's super hard.
I bet,
But now people that speak the same language, sometimes they don't even know how to communicate.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what we hear is always...
How we interpret it.
Right, it's like got the filter of your own like shit in your life that you put on every, you know, it's like... Yeah, it's like, I said I like wine, and you heard, like, something complete, you know, it's like I said the most basic thing.
Yeah, it's like, you can say, like, I like wine, and then you go, oh, she says she's fancy because she likes wine.
Right.
It's like, what?
Yeah, exactly. I know, it's crazy.
She says she was working for Lululemon, Banana Republic, and now she's fancy doing wine. No,
Right. Yeah, totally.
And then, so now, I love your place. Like, guys, like you here, like this is a small piece of paradise. She has like a greenhouse next to her house that she's building. You grow your own like all the stuff like you eat, like when you're working with your clients. Can you get some of that stuff for you?
If there's surplus, yeah, I will sometimes take it. But that's part of why I'm growing my own food here, because I don't want to feel like.
Yeah, like kind of stealing.
I don't. Yeah, I only take it if it's like really they can't eat all of it. But the part of the intention of the greenhouse is to be able to have my own food.
So that's what I'm going. So kind of one of your goals would be like be able to grow everything what you need to keep this.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, the less like the more I can be self-sufficient, the better. And I have the space here to do it, and. You know, it's not like perfect growing conditions, but it's what I have.
No, it's like a beginning.
Yeah. We have this. I mean, like I can't complain about the shade of this amazing tree because it's amazing, but it does shade out most of my yard from growing.
Makes
but
sense.
It's a beautiful tree, and so I'm happy to have it. But I mean, I think self-sufficiency is really appealing to me.
And I really don't like this question because it's the first time I hear it was like. I don't know. That was my answer. But right here in the States, I love to ask this. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
Like, what's your plan in 5 years? Short term, long term?
I used to be able to answer that question, but I can't answer that question anymore.
No, exactly.
Yeah, my life has changed so drastically in such a short amount of time and I could have never predicted that this is where I would be right now. Ever.
Like if you go to Lindsay.
5 years ago.
No, I would say
5 years ago, even. Yeah, I mean,
like 5 years ago, you were in Oakland, right?
Yeah, just arrived in Oakland.
Wow. What about senior year
of college?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, just the other day, I was telling my mom I was going camping or something, and I was like, you know, if we don't pitch a tent, we might just sleep in the back of the truck. And she was like, "Who am I talking to?" She was like. Is my daughter
Business
talking
class
to me? Yes, exactly. She was like, my daughter is talking to me about camping. I can hear the words, but I'm not really comprehending what's happening right now. It's true. Like my whole lifestyle. I mean, shit. I'm wearing Birkenstocks in my backyard. I mean, it's foreign to me. I'm still getting used to it.
Yeah.
Myself.
But
so 5 years from now,
I would say
who knows.
But now that you say that, that's why I love this podcast, because it makes me to connect and everything.
Yeah.
But after you saying that and after listening to your story, probably this is my own words.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's gonna apply to you, but maybe a 5 years goal, it will be to keep feeling as a kid.
Exactly. That's great. Yeah. I mean, if I can continue on a path of like, not like just feeling like I don't know. My life just feels so fun right now.
Yeah.
I just like have a lot of fun all the time and feels pretty light and easy, and I don't know. I'm sure. I mean, knock on wood, it doesn't always last, but you know, it's like I could keep feeling like this.
Would you imagine like you could feel as you're feeling right now working in the fashion industry?
No.
No, for sure.
No. I don't even think I could work for anyone but myself at this point.
Okay.
It's been such a nice relief it has its own challenges, but it's really nice to work for myself.
I know you told me you have like your portfolio with designs and everything. Have you ever thought about like small in Napa, like starting with that, or it's just something you just left behind and don't want to
you know,
back?
I think I haven't been, like I was saying earlier, like none of it, I wasn't processing it in a way of like, you know, the clothing industry does really bad things to the planet, and I mean, consciously I knew that and I wanted to get out of that, but like I said, it was just this like intuition more than anything. But I think somewhere deep inside I must be wanting to like course correct the wrongs that I was a part of, you know, like I stopped actually really buying new clothes. I mostly only buy secondhand now, and I have I still have ideas for clothing. Like even being a farmer, there's not very many clothes for women farmers. Certainly not very many attractive ones, and like it's a huge like hole in the market that I can see very easily, and it's like I could fix that easily, but do I want to? I don't think I want to. There's so, like you said, there's so many clothes out there. Yeah. I just don't think I could justify any reason for more clothes.
But you can create like hunches, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely put some effort into like repurposing things and making them into something else. That all has its own implications. You're still sending stuff and shipments all over the world, like all the time. You're packaging them. Yeah.
I have a well, she's not my friend, but we went to high school together, and she kind of like started like her own like fashion brand. And I think her business model is to get like second-hand clothes and just fix the cuts and make like clothes from already like
that's great. I think that's awesome. I would totally be down to do something like that by hand, but like to make a business out of it, or like, because there are definitely lots of like second-hand clothing ideas, or even like having a website for second-hand clothing trade and whatnot. Like there's not a whole lot of it out there, but I don't know, I think my heart's just not in it like it once was.
It's like you work so caught up, so involved that you just want to like kind of like detox.
I think so. I don't. It's like it's not a thing I really think about, but it is something I practice. So it must be something that.
Because now that you're saying like your mom was a sewer, and make like clothes for you and for your dolls and all that. That's something that we have lost like in these days. But also my grandma used to like, my dad used to tell me like my mom, like your grandma used to make my uniforms for school. Yeah. And your grandma made her own like dress for weddings and all that because I think it was too expensive, and she just buy the fabric and do it herself.
Totally.
Yeah, and I remember when I don't know, that's something about grandpas that they grew up like probably in so difficult times. Yeah. That they were like adapting to everything. I remember when I have like hole in my pants, I was like, Mom, just buy a new one. Yeah. And my grandma was like, No, I can fix it.
Right,
she fixed it right.
Yeah. I mean, my great grandmother, I guess my great grandfather, they were living in Barranquilla, and he was working for like a paint company, and they like, I don't know, somehow he like got a job with them in New York, and that's how they ended up in the States. And really the only thing I think my great grandmother knew how to do was sew, and so she was like a seamstress, like she was doing like alterations in New York City. And it was just really all she knew how to do as an immigrant, like in New York. Like that's just kind of how it was for her. But then I think, she must have just passed it on. I have to ask my grandma actually, like at what point she started sewing.
And then my grandparents are from this small town in Michoacan called Hualcoman. And one of the biggest designers in the music industry was from that town. He was an immigrant, and he designed for the the Beatles Yellow Submarine album. He designed all those.
Oh, cool.
Things. Yeah.
What's his name?
I would take that as a homework, and I'll let you know. Okay. But there's some picture that he was doing that.
Oh, cool.
And I kind of feel like you said it before, like as the corporation grows and is like more business focused, you lose that touch. Yeah. And there's there's, as we talked also about this before the podcast, there's also like white and black.
Yeah.
So there's also grace, you know?
Right, totally.
It's like hate the game, not the player.
Right.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, honestly, like I didn't know like all your background and all that stuff. Like when you were growing up, you already had that in mind.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I love that you like now like have more stuff in your portfolio.
Yeah. And I mean, life will, had the pandemic not happened, I don't know that I would even be here talking about this. Like, things happen and we adapt. And I don't know. I think couldn't have predicted that. Nobody could have. And
this is super cheesy, but if it's meant to be, it will be.
Totally.
Right?
You have to just let go and like wake up each day and like you can't worry about yesterday, you can't worry about tomorrow. It's like you were gifted today because you might not have tomorrow. Like
that was more cheesy.
It's true though. It's so true. Like you're right. It's cheesy, but it's true.
Right, it's true. It's
like, and so I don't really remember where I was going with that, but
sorry.
no, you're right. I did. It just came right out. But it's just like live each day, and I don't know, like 5 years from now, gosh, I can barely could barely tell you what I'm doing next week.
Yeah.
Besides my work schedule, know.
No, but I from all this conversation, like what I take the most, that when I really is in my head right now is that feeling of first day of school or first day of excursion or first day of camping.
Yeah.
That feeling that is like, wow, I'm here and I want to learn and I want to do and I want to see, and you're so involved in the moment that it feels great.
Yeah, it just feels alive.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. And now that I'm saying this, is like when you're in the moment, like that's only what matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny though, when we were talking before the podcast, it's like I think I've always admired you because of your drive, and similarly my housemate Caitlin, I really admire her drive, like, and I see in you guys what I've always had at your age, and not to pull the like age card, but it's true, like I was very clear on like what I wanted, what I was doing, and I think that's awesome. I don't think everybody has that. But at the same time, I see it and I hear it, and I'm like, man, like you had said something about, and she said something about, like, I thought this is what was going to happen, and now I'm making steps toward that thing, and in the process of trying to make this thing happen, I'm realizing maybe that's not what I want. And it's just interesting, we have this idea of how things are going to go and what path we're going down, or like what goals we have, and life throws things around and changes things, or you try it and you realize it's not what your expectation of the thing is going to be, and it's good to just be open to
and try
and it's good to like hear people like reflect on it in a clear way, to be like, okay, I tried that thing and it actually, and to listen to your gut, to say like, maybe this part of it didn't feel the way I thought it was going to feel, and maybe I want to try it differently. It's just good to be in tune with that, because you can follow your intuition to whatever's meant to be.
Follow your intuition. Clink. We need a clink for that.
Clink for that.
No, totally. And I feel like that drive, you say the age and everything, but that drives take you to places that you never expected.
Right.
And then those places change your perspective, but you need to be awake to realize that, oh, this is happening.
Right.
And change directions.
And totally, like in tune with yourself enough to then be able to like process it and then turn it into something, you know? Yeah,
because probably if you wouldn't, like, for you in your case, like if you wouldn't move to Oakland, probably you doing something else.
Right. I probably would have been working for some other corporation in New York or something. Yeah. Or I probably would have figured out my way to California. But maybe I might have been SoCal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows?
I like to think like there's like a different version of ourselves in the future.
Oh my God. Isn't that what Black Mirror is? Or no?
I don't know.
There's some show about that.
Really?
Where it's like, you exist in like or no, the movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's like where you're like existing in like multiple realities as one. Yeah.
I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, I actually haven't fully seen it, but I know that that's what it's about.
But it's like, I like to like visualize that there's like my future self that did all what I want to do right now, and then my future self that followed the God, and then the future self that is like way fat, depressed right there in the corner.
Yeah.
Actually, like, it's a possibility.
Yeah.
And then like my future self that is like OG, like having his businesses, that is super cool, that is fit, that is living the best life.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like make like, this is not my idea. So I listened to this podcast. His name is Diego Dreyfus. I would send it to him, to you, and he said like, so all those possible futures exist.
Right.
But right now is what I'm doing today that's gonna take me to that future.
Right.
So what the successful myself is doing today. Oh, so probably today he's working out instead of watching TV, or probably today he's building something instead of like go and I don't know, get drunk, exactly. Yeah. Oh, probably it's like networking instead of like being in the bed lazy.
Right.
So that's the way. Do you have that future that you want, and then just do like back engineer?
Yeah.
Where you at?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think there's all these like, this is like really far out, but like there's like all these other galaxies that we don't know about. We can't even see them on telescopes.
Yeah.
Like, what if there's another Earth with you and me having, like, I don't know, some other conversation stuff, like, on another, like,
what if,
galaxy.
If this is your podcast in the other galaxy?
I mean, and we're like, and we look like aliens. I mean, who knows?
Yes.
You know? Yeah. I know, I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, or is this a simulation? A lot of people talk about simulation.
I think we're having too much wine.
Yeah.
Nice,
just enough wine. You should have more, yeah.
Thank you. No, yeah, so I like to think this is like way out of the podcast, but we're already talking about this, and it's like, have you ever stopped to watch like the stars or to watch like nature?
Yeah.
Like everything seems like it's like connected, and we're like too busy like, oh yeah, like let's do this on computer, on work, and money, and relationships, and this and that, and concerts, and distraction, and everything.
Yeah.
And we're like kind of not actually like appreciate everything.
Yeah, totally.
That's what got me the most sometimes.
Yeah, totally. No, it's good to have an appreciation of those things. I think it keeps you grounded and like sane, and not lose sight of what's like, what's real and important. And it is easy to get caught up in the like, you know, I was not victim, but I was part of it myself, of just like more all the time, and
but then
stop
New York
for a second.
And people in New York has also like, I love that vibe, and big cities are like also like, I'm not hated. I sometimes I need the city because it's like so interesting, and the people that are there are so interesting, and the stories and like
culture and art, and like those things are heightened in cities, right?
Yes.
Like people go to those places to do those things, and no, and like you're saying, it's like we're all connected and it's all necessary. Like we need the cities, we need the country, we need like the growers, and we need the plant. It's like none of it can exist without the other. Like it's all connected.
Totally.
Yeah.
What if we close with that?
Yes.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
You down?
Yes.
Okay.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. And thank you guys.
Thank you.